Hello viewer, the first video of 2019. It is a remarkably sunny day here in sunny Scotland, and it is remarkably cold outside, but at least this room's warm because it's south-facing. So anyway, obviously you've seen the title of the video. It is Are Jehovah's Witnesses fascinated by demons? And the reason why I've chosen that title is because a long time ago, when I was in Rutherglen congregation, I was actually told that I was by two elders and a ministerial servant because of all things, it wasn't because I did the Ouija board on a regular basis or sat in a pentagon or whatever. No, it's because I listened to a band called Joy Division, and I used to, at that time, walk around in it in a Mac and had fingerless gloves, and I used to listen to music in the dark, and I had some black and white pictures up. And obviously, they're all the telltale signs of a worshipper of Satan. It clearly is, you know. I don't know why how obvious was that? But anyway, that was it was something I was told I was guilty of, and maybe they still think that. Heaven knows. In fact, I think only one of them's alive now. But anyway, so we'll crack on. We'll crack on. Obviously, Satan rewards those who worship him by giving them extended life. So we'll crack on. The reason why I brought this up is because through my witnessy life, there were many occasions where we used to hear tales of people who somehow were involved with the demons. There was some sort of anything happened untowards, otherworldly wise, it was a demonic attack. It's demon, and you hear about it a lot. And I'm going to give examples of how within Jehovah's Witnesses, how this demon thing, comes up time and time again in my life. I'm sure it must be continuing today. And the reason why I say that is because I've just heard Stephen Lett, one of the governing body members, referring to the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses eat from the spiritual food, and everybody else in the world eats from the table of demons. So still they're doing it. But I'm going to talk about sort of cases where, because of words like that, you have Jehovah's Witnesses who clearly see things in their life and attribute what happening to them as some sort of demonic attack. So firstly, let's bash on with going back all the way back to the early 70s, when my mother was going to buy a chest of drawers from a second-hand shop, because we couldn't afford to buy it brand new, of course. And we were at my auntie's house one day, who was a Jehovah's Witness, and my mum was just coming along this time. My mum told my auntie of her plans, as you do, that she's going to buy this chest of drawers. I think it was maybe for my room, actually. And my auntie says, oh no, you can't do that. You can't buy a chest of drawers from a second-hand shop. And my mum says, well, why not? And the reason being is because my auntie then proceeded to tell my mum that potentially, prior to going to the second-hand shop, that the chest of drawers could have been in the house of somebody who was into the occult, or did the Ouija board, or had spirit medium, or that, spiritistic church, that sort of thing. And as a result, if you then went and bought that chest of drawers, because the furniture came from a house where somebody obviously had the demons in for a cup of tea all the time, then potentially that's how you got the demons into your house. And I remember hearing this conversation thinking, eh? And then my mother went and spoke to her, I believe the person who was doing her Bible study at the time, somebody called Marge Woodhouse, and said, look, this is what I've been told, well, and apparently, yes, it was true. Apparently, that's what the Jehovah's Witnesses were saying at that time. So it wasn't one person come up with some sort of, an idea out their own head. This was, fairly common knowledge. If you went and bought second-hand furniture, potentially that you were inviting demons into your house. That's how they get in. And of course, you believed it, and at no point did anybody think of the logic behind that statement, which I'm going to attempt to do right now. So what we're trying to say is that a demon was in a house of a guy who did the occult, and whoever knows, maybe worshipped Satan every night, and then somehow the demon got trapped in the bottom drawer of a chest of drawers. Then he got taken out the house and stood in a second-hand shop, still in the bottom drawer, still down in the bottom drawer, which is an expression for where I come from, that when a couple are getting engaged, that's where they put their stuff their stuff for their new house. What's in the bottom drawer? Oh my God, it's a demon, not just like some sheets or whatever. So then, of course, the chest of drawers is bought by, let's say it's not my mum this time, let's say it's a little old witnessy lady in a one-bedroom council flat in Ellesmere Pools. So she brings it in, thinking it's just a chest of drawers. How is she to know that in the bottom drawer is one of Satan's demons who can't get out? If only he could push that drawer, he would have got out. But now she opens the drawer and he's free. He is free. And my God, what mischief this fella's going to get up with right now. Let's just think about the normal things that people in the world, whatever, say that confirms to them that there's something untoward or otherworldly happening in their house, where they have to bring in, Ghostbusters or whatever it is, or, these guys who might have expelled demons. Well, they get up to top shenanigans such as turning the light switch on and off. Fuck me, that's scary. And then it's the old thing that all of a sudden a room is very cold. Well, if a room is very, very cold, I kid you not, I must have a whole legion of demons in my house, because the back end of my house is bollock naked freezing. It is absolutely a brass monkey. So I must have a whole legion there. And then other top things that they do is that they move things in the cutlery drawer. Right? All of a sudden there's a spoon in the fork section. A spoon in the fork section. And they move objects around. They just move objects around. Let's think about this from the demon's point of view. Let's embrace everybody's point of view here. Let's think from his point of view. For a kick-off, he has been thrown out of heaven, so he's down to the vicinity of the earth. The whole of the world is in the clutches of Satan and his fellow brothers and maybe sisters that are demons. And so the only thing that they can do now is go after. They're going full throttle on Jehovah's Witnesses, and by a stroke of luck, this one's ended up into this sister's house. And they've been living for millions of years. They've been up to all sorts of capers, You name it, these guys have done it. Created wars, come down to the earth, had sex with women. You name it, these guys have done it. And now, as their end approaches, this demon is just flicking some switches, moving the spoons around and making rooms cold and moving items above the fireplace. Honestly, how disappointed would you be if you were one of the most powerful spirit creatures ever, maybe a top demon, maybe Satan's number 3 or 4, and all you can do is flick switches, and that's it. That's all you're doing. How gutted you must be. How that demon must have hoped that chest of drawers was bought by Hugh Hefner when he was still alive and taken to the Playboy Mansion. When that drawer opened up and he banged out and said, "Here I am," you can, "Well, for fuck me, what's going on here?" Yes, Hugh, fantastic, you know what I mean? And the next day, another blonde, and the next day you just sit there thinking, well, I'm not going to bother flicking switches here. I'm going to do whatever demons do to get themselves off, but it's just utter nonsense, isn't it, really? Just to think that's what they do. That's all they can do. They can just, make rooms cold, and they can't do anything. How do they do this anyway? If they're just in a different dimension to us, how can they, why was that demon stuck in the drawer? Why couldn't he have just gone into the witness woman's house anyway? Just, you can clearly go through blinking walls. How's he stuck in a drawer? It's a bit like vampires. They can't get into somebody's house unless allegedly somebody invites them in, and at that point, anybody's up for a good nibble, bite on a sock. Sorry, you invited us in, and if you don't rescind it, I'm going to come here every night and feast on whatever's available. It's just like, if somebody in demons cannot get into your house, they can't just go through your walls unless they smuggle themselves in a chest of drawers. It's just nonsense. But yet that's the sort of shite we believed. Now, Moving on to another example here. Back in Ellesmere Port, there was a sister whose husband was into, the Ouija board and the occult, and she says, I've got the demons in my house. And eventually this guy took drinking drugs and fell to his death on Eastern Ferry Dock, unfortunately. But let's go back to when he was alive, and she had the demons in the house. So what she did is she called, not Ghostbusters, but one of the he wasn't even an elder at this time, he was actually a ministerial servant. So he came round to her gaff because he was the top, demon expeller. And he went in, he quoted some, she told me the story, he read some verses of the Bible, and then he shouted those magical words. And I'm not on about, abracadabra, but he said those magical words, Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah. And then that was it. The demon was expelled. The demon was expelled, and all the light flicking, bad temperatures, coldness, all that stopped there and then. Now, if you were a demon, you'd probably be thinking to yourself, who's this Jehovah guy? Because that name's not even right. When we were in heaven, we called him something else. We referred to him as something else, and you're even saying the name wrong. Even if it was a human standpoint, it's not wrong. It doesn't work for me. So how's he expelled anyway? I would have thought the only way he can be expelled is if a angelic creature then came down, another fellow angelic creature, managed to force him out of the house. But it was so. Why didn't the angelic creature do that beforehand? And is this because if you are if you're in the process of expelling a demon and you shout the name Jehovah, 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 does that come like some sort of international rescue where one of the top angels in like Thunderbirds 2 just appears in the room and pushes the demon out? It's funny that, isn't it? Because the amount of witnesses I know that said the name Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah when they're about to die or the child's clinging on to life, and guess what? No angelic help at all. It makes you wonder. Expelling demons, I'm here for you, trying to save your child's life. It's really, really odd. But how does that demon stay out anyway? Where's he been forced to? Has he just gone next door? Has he gone to the terrace, the house next door on the terrace? And has the elder managed to, has the angel put some sort of invisible angelic force field around this house? You'll never get in again, even though she's probably going to move and you might appear in the next house. Again, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And then we come to another brother. Well, he wasn't a brother. Well, he was a brother, but he'd left the organisation, so he was in the clutches already of Satan and his demons. He was there. He was shagging. He was taking drugs. He was drinking. And then one time he came home and he lay down on the couch under the influence of whatever, and he was lying back, and he started to feel himself going backwards, falling. And as he was falling, all of a sudden he could hear this voices going, "Oh." And he, of course, woke straight up and he just belted himself out that flat, and that was him absolutely convinced he was under demonic attack. Now, I don't know whether whoever watching this has ever had too much to drink one night, but I'm telling you two things amazingly happen. If you have too much to drink and you're still wide awake, what happens is because if you lay down in your bed and you open up your eyes, bizarrely, the rooms spin round. Literally, you can look up and the room does do that. The ceiling does spin round. It's a horrible feeling. So, of course, you think, I want this spinning room feeling to stop. So you close your eyes. But when you close your eyes, you have the falling effect where you're going, So, in other words, it sounds very similar to the example he had. And yet, this happened to me without the whoa, but it was just because of drink. And I've never taken drugs, so maybe the whoa was because of drugs. Who knows? Now, there's another example here, because a group of witnesses were in Glasgow, and we were talking about, bizarrely, has anybody had any demonic experiences? As you do, it's just odd, young witnesses. Has anybody had any demonic experiences? So one brother says, well, maybe not directly, but I definitely was under attack once. And I was thinking, my God, this is going to be a really, 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 really good story. And he says, yet it was just before I was to give a talk on the platform. I'm thinking, right, what did they do? Did they woo him, or did they like start throwing things around the room like was it full poltergeist fashion? What did they do? What did they do to this young brother who was a servant and a pioneer at the time, I believe, who had this demonic attack? That he's in this room full of all other things, telling us this fantastic story where we're all going to shit our pants of how scary it really is. Anyway, he goes forth with this story. The next day, he has a talk on the platform, and during the night, wait for it, he can't get to sleep. Clearly evidence that he was under some sort of demonic attack. And in stopping him from sleeping, it would ensure that the next day, instead of providing a full spiritual meal to the brothers and sisters who are going to listen to his talk, they'd get a scant starter, really, really poor starter, like half a cracker and a mouldy bit of cheese and half of a grape, which is mouldy too. Really poor starter. And that was him convinced, because he couldn't sleep that night, that he was under some sort of demonic attack. And everybody in the audience is going, and I'm going, what? Because normally, hold on, let's take this call, be back in a sec. I am back. So anyway, getting back to the story. Where was I again? Whoa, right, anyway. So basically, that was him convinced it was a demonic attack. The funny thing about it, musicians or people who regularly make appearances on stage, before they go on stage, guess what? Often they're on the shitter for hours. They're throwing up. They're just drinking themselves into oblivion because they're suffering from something called nerves. There's something called nerves, and that's what happened. It's just bizarre. Obviously, if you suffer from nerves, that's why I couldn't sleep. But if you're Jehovah's Witness, if there's something, if you're a bit nervous, you're not allowed to be nervous at Jehovah's Witness. Clearly it must be. It's the demons again. So anyway, there's another example of something which is a little bit odd with Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, the funny thing is, if you are a demon, if you're purposely trying to get at Jehovah's Witnesses, because that's your sole purpose in life now, and all those examples are true, guess what? They've all failed and backfired. Because in the case of the brother who got the guess what? Because of that attack, if it was the demons, guess what that forced him to do? It forced him to go back to Jehovah's Witnesses, and as far as I'm aware, he's still there. After years being away, after drinking, drugs and sex, he decided that one episode proved to him that the demons were after him and Jehovah's Witnesses were right, and he returned to the fold. So, sorry demons, you've not thought that one out very well. You already had him, and then you let him go. And it's the same thing with the sister with the expelling of the demons. That convinced her that Jehovah's Witnesses were correct, because all this odd activity stopped. And guess what? She's still a witness too. The brother, of course, and everybody there hearing that story would then convince, yes, this is true. This shows this is the truth, because, otherwise, demons are only going after us. They're not going after anybody else. So the whole thing is bizarre, because if the demons were really doing this, it's backfired, because it only brings them closer to accepting the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses are right all along. And that's what they do. Now, interestingly, I myself have experienced things which, in a former life, I would have thought, that's a little bit odd. What's the explanation to this? Now, I'll give an example of these. There's actually 4 of them, so I'll whirl through them very quickly. Example number 1, when I was about 15 or 16, I was doing the CSC in art. I had some homework to do, which I had to stare at a mirror and draw my own face. I was in the house on my own, and as I was drawing away, no music, no TV, just concentrating, looking at my face, drawing what's going on here, I felt there was a presence in the house. And I could feel this presence moving from the kitchen to the hall, through the door, and right in front of me was an archway where our lounge was, and I was in the dining room. And at the very point I was going to see whatever was there, I said to myself, go away, go away, go away. And then I could feel this thing going back, back, back and back, okay? I was absolutely petrified. I rung up my uncle, who was a Jehovah's Witness. He came round to the house. I actually think he had something in his hand, because I said to him, look, there's something in the house. I was behind the lounge door, holding on to it, and next thing is I ran when he came. He came into his house, nothing there at all. Absolutely nothing. And yet I was convinced, therefore, shit, if nobody was actually in the house, because it was all locked up apart from me being into it, this must have been an otherworldly presence. So I put that down to, maybe it was a demonic attack. Don't really know. Now, I've had three odd things happen to me since. Which, one of them was I got baptised. The day I got baptised, for the 3 seconds or the 2 seconds that I was under the water and came up, that like 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 seconds, I felt a feeling of absolute euphoria. And I wasn't expecting anything, because to me, I'd seen loads and loads of people getting baptised before, and to me it's just a symbolic event, just making you dedicated your life to Jehovah. And for those 3 seconds, I had a euphoric feeling. I actually felt like, I saw lights. This is absolutely true. It was a feeling of, oh my God. It lasted the whole of 3 seconds, and it was amazing. And when I came out of it, I was lightheaded. I could hardly walk, and I spoke to other Jehovah's Witnesses and said, see, when you got baptised, did you have this sort of euphoric feeling where all of a sudden you felt, out of body experience? And go, no. And of course, there was only one explanation. If I was a Jehovah's Witness, clearly at that point I'd been anointed as one of the. I've been anointed with the Holy Spirit, and therefore that I was one of the 144,000. And I just thought, in time, well, hold on a second. There's no sort of give or take in this one. It's just you're it, and you just know it. So I just thought, maybe I'm it. Maybe there are going to be other signs. Needless to say, there wasn't any more other signs. I just forgot about it, because I thought to myself, well, that was the one thing to tell me I was one of the anointed. Where's the rest of the signs? They never ever came. But, really odd sensation. Now, when I left Jehovah's Witnesses, and I've been away from them for many, many years, I went to something when I moved down here. Around about 13 or maybe 12 years ago, I went to something called the Ukrainian War Chapel, which is near Lockerbie, which, if you know, is the place which the plane fell upon. Not far from Lockerbie is a Ukrainian War Chapel. During the Second World War, the Ukrainians were the prisoner of wars were in Scotland having to work the land, because of course there was a lack of men, because they were out fighting in Europe or wherever it was at the time. I walked into this Ukrainian War Chapel, which really is just made out of corrugated iron or whatever. I don't think there's a Jesus there or anything. There may be just sort of cross and whatever. And I walked in with my wife and my son. And as I walked in, all of a sudden I felt I couldn't walk anymore. I literally struggled to walk. And I just felt like I just wanted to fall on the floor. And it wasn't euphoria this time. It was just complete, I don't know, a really horrible, heavy sensation. I wanted to fall on the floor and burst into tears. It was just not a nice feeling. Then I walked in there, and I just felt completely emotionally drained. It was really odd, and yet my son and my wife were there, not a thing at all. And I sort of, it was really odd. Walked in, and thinking, oh my God, and I couldn't really wait to get out of it, to be honest with you. And that went and passed, and I then had another experience exactly like it. I was in Rome a few years later. We'd been to visit lots of different cathedrals and churches or whatever. Done a load, because I love going to these places, because the architecture is absolutely amazing. And I went to this Catholic, of course they're all Catholic ones. I went to this Catholic cathedral. You go into one door, and then there's a sort of lobby bit, and then you opened up the next door, and then you're right in, and they were in full throes of a mass. I went in the one door, I went into the second door, standing at the back. And exactly the same feeling. I felt like I wanted to collapse. I was completely emotional. I wanted to burst into tears, and it absolutely drained me. And I just had to get out. And funny thing is, I went back with my wife and my son a bit later on, because I just went for a walk on my own. Went in again, nothing. Same place, standing in the same place, no experience at all. And I found those really odd. Now the funny thing is, I had one experience once, this is a fifth one, but it's not religious or anything. I remember walking down the street once in Cheston, about 1983. There was a woman walking up the road, because they're not allowed any cars in a lot of the places in Chester. There's a woman walking up the road, and as I was walking down, I saw her, and I must have seen her for about 3 seconds. And as I looked up, I looked at her coming towards me, she was blonde, she was tall, she had long legs, and all of a sudden I found the inability to walk. Literally my legs had turned to rubber, and I now know what that expression means now, to go weak at the knees. All of a sudden I was literally struggling to walk. It's never happened with anybody else that I've ever seen ever, but for some reason that happened to me. Now you see, the other instances of the Ukrainian and the Roman Catholic thing, if you were a witness and that had happened to you, you'd then straight away say, oh, that's the demons. That's the demons doing that to you. You know, that's what's happened. You're under some sort of demonic attack. And the thing with the get baptized, that's obviously an angelic thing that happened there. And that thing with the girl, oh, heaven knows how we can explain that one. But you see, this is the interesting thing about it. I put all these things down to the fact that we, at this moment, still have no idea. We still have no idea what how we can meet somebody and instantly, I felt I've like known you for years, deja vu, things like that. There's lots of things we can't explain because we don't really know how our brain works half the time, and it's just an amazing thing. Now, a lot of people, for the things that I've experienced, I know people have experienced things like this before, are spending the rest of their time and a lot of money going to see people to try and get an understanding of this in a non-religious context, because they think there may be a shaman or something. A lot of people do this, and there's other things they maybe think, oh, you know, that there's some meaning behind these. I don't find meaning behind any of these. I think that somehow your brain can do things with you if you're in a certain environment, and all of a sudden it can trigger a physical and an emotional response in your body which you were not expecting. And so you just have to accept these as just some of the crazy things that happen to you in life. I don't feel myself as anything different, and I'm sure maybe other people have experienced things like them, but always to think about, this means something. This means something. This means maybe your relative's going to die, or whatever it is, or somebody's sent you a sign that they're really happy in heaven. Sorry, these are the quirk of things that happen in life, and just accept them for what they are and embrace them, but don't spend too much time thinking about them, because you've got to get on with your life. So that really is it. To my mind, even just what Letch just recently said, is that in my mind, Jehovah's Witnesses do, for everything otherworldly or anything which is crap that happens in their life, it's clearly the demons at it. It always is. And they are infatuated with them. Sorry, they absolutely are. And in examples like what were explained to me, I put them now down to just things that happen, which I'm amazed about. But I don't think about them too much. If you're Jehovah's Witness, you put them in context. Clearly, it shows proof of demonic attack or angelic intervention. There's no such thing with Jehovah's Witnesses. There's no such things that coincidences don't happen with Jehovah's Witnesses, which is something else I'm going to come to another talk. How Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in coincidences, and anyway, we'll do that another time. But anyway, that's it. That's my examples and my belief that Jehovah's Witnesses are infatuated with demons, and let's just prove they still are. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and feel free to comment when and if you can. Goodbye.